Hey everybody, Jane here, and today I want to talk to you about Beneath the Sugar Sky. Beneath the Sugar Sky is the third book in the Wayward Children series, and so far, I think, my favorite. The Wayward Children series is about children who go to portal worlds, think like Narnia. Book 1 was about Nancy, who came to the school. She's a new student, murders start to happen, she's blamed for it, and so they have to solve this murder, these series of murders, and find out who is committing the murders, and deal with all that. In book 2, two of the children we met in book 1, we get to glance into their portal world and their experience there, which affected book 1. In book 3, we have a girl drop from a portal world into their frog pond, and this girl claims that she is the daughter of someone who was murdered in book 1, and she needs some of the students' help to try to go resurrect her mother and make things right in her portal world. Now, her portal world doesn't follow timelines like linearly like we do, so the issue is if they don't find her mother and get her, alive again, this girl will cease to exist. So the stakes are high. We have Cade, who is one of my favorites. The two boys in this are absolutely my favorite characters, although there's also a girl named, I believe, Cora, who I really liked. But in the first book, Cade and Christopher were the two that I most connected with. Cade was assigned female at birth and was sent into a fairy portal world, but when they realized that he was a little boy instead of a little girl, they kicked him out of the portal world, and he has really kind of struggled. He's one of the only kids at the school who doesn't want to go back to his portal world / can't go back to his portal world, but he's there because of his relationship to the headmistress, and he will someday take over the school. I absolutely love him as a character. He's so much fun. The other little boy is Christopher. He went to a world of skeletons, and that's kind of how he's involved in this whole thing, is obviously a relationship with the dead and skeletons. We also have on this quest to help this child, the child who fell and who's trying to get her mother resurrected. We also have a girl who I believe her name is Cora. And she is a plus-size girl, which I totally fell in love with her, and I can totally relate to her and her struggles. She is overweight, even though she's also very athletic. She's part of the swim team at her old school, and she ended up going to an underwater world where she was a mermaid, and where, her weight was not an issue. As she's come to the Wayward Children's School, she's definitely struggling with how people perceive her and her weight. And one of the worlds that they end up in on their journey to try to save the mother of this child is a world made of candy. And I loved that the author didn't make her be like, oh, candy. As a matter of fact, she's like, oh, everybody would expect that I would be like, yay, candy. But, she's not. She's heavyset because of bad genetics and just the way her body is, but she's also an athlete. She tries to eat relatively healthy, and she talks about some of her struggles with weight loss and, what the other kids have done to try to lose weight, the kids who are starving themselves. She's been in Weight Watchers. She's been trying to do the healthy stuff, but she just can't get her body size down. And I really loved her and I related to her. I have never seen such good fat representation in a book, I don't think, and such a sympathetic, wonderful fat character. I absolutely love Cora. I absolutely related to Cora and all of her struggles as a person who is also overweight and who struggles with that. And who, just a side note, I feel like so many people think that people who are overweight just need to not eat 10 cheeseburgers. But it's so much more complex, especially when you are overweight because of metabolic issues, illnesses, medications, all kinds of things. There's a lot of reasons you can be overweight. So I absolutely loved how Cora's story was handled. This book was so good. I loved how they are going through some different portal worlds, but it's also none of these, in most cases, these kids' portals worlds. So we are going through different portal worlds of other people we've met to try to find things and to try and just to really understand more about how the portal worlds work and the system, and particularly the last portal world we end up in, we really come to understand more about how these portal worlds are created, how they exist, who has control over them, etc. So this was just a lot of fun. The stakes were high, as I said, because we are trying to get a portal world straightened out. The company was great. Cora, Christopher, and Cade, they are just amazing characters, and I loved taking this journey with them. I had such a good time with them as their characters, and I've liked this so much more than any of the other books. I did really like the first book. It was a mystery, and it took place at the school. The second book, I had never really connected with the Jack and Jill characters, which is probably one of the reasons I didn't love it. And also, it's very much just in, the majority of it is just in their portal world, but it's also very quick. It's just like, here's a picture of this part of the portal world. Here's a picture of this. Whereas this book, Beneath the Sugar Sky, felt more like the original story of telling or showing you what's happening. You are there, you're in the moment, where I felt like below the sticks and bones, underneath the sticks and bones, I'm not sure what is called the second book. I felt like that was more told in like an omniscient narrative. It's like, here's Jack and Jill and why their life is not great and why they're open to a portal world, and then they get sucked in the portal world, and this is why this portal world is their portal world, and this is what happens in the portal world, and this is how they end up at the school. So it was a lot more fairy tale telling in book 2, whereas I think book 1 and book 3 were both more showing. Like, take the adventure with us, a lot of character development, just a lot of fun, and the portal worlds in book 3, I really enjoyed them. I think we visit 2. I think there's 2, and I had a good time in both of them. I really liked exploring them. In book 2, I didn't feel like we got a good feel for the portal worlds, but in book 3, I really think the 2 portal worlds that we saw, particularly the latter one, the candy one, was absolutely well made and interesting and engaging, and it was enough information that I was wanting to know what happened, but not so much that I was overwhelmed. Because with fantasy, I sometimes have that problem where there's too much world building and not enough story. And this was, for me, the perfect amount of story in with a little bit of really fun world building. There's not much I can say negative about the book. It is a little bit short, but all of the books in the series are. The other thing that is a little bit of a negative for me was just, and I'd mentioned this about book 1, there's a character who kind of is a little vulgar, and this character is who the mother of this child is, and this child is kind of vulgar. And I think it worked okay in the book because they come from a different world, so they can say the things that they say, but just like, this is definitely closer to like a PG-13 book than a PG book. You know, this girl shows up naked and is like, do you not have the same parts as I do? Is that why you guys are looking at me crazy? You know, things like that. But it's just a lot more like direct. And I did like the humor that came from her character, probably more than her mother in book 1, because her mother in book 1 I found really a little bit put offish maybe by how direct and vulgar some of the things she said were, whereas in this book, because the daughter's from a portal world and that person's child, I wasn't as put off by it. But again, it was like, I could have done without some of the discussion of, you know, I could have just done without some of it. So that was really the only negative I had to say. I did really enjoy this. And like I said, so far it was my favorite of the Wayward Children series. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the books. I hope we see more of Christopher and Cade, because they are my favorite. And I would like to see more of Cora too. We did also get to see a bit of Nancy. Jack and Jill were not in this one at all. I believe the next book maybe though is more Jack and Jill. So it'll be interesting to see how I feel about that one. But I liked this one way more than I expected to, so my hopes are high. Alright guys, this is Jane. If you have read Beneath the Sugar Sky, tell me what you thought of it. Was it your favorite? Was it your least favorite? And why? Do you enjoy the Portal World books better or the school books better? Just, tell me how you feel about this series down in the comments. Also, if you had comments about how Cora as a character was and how the fat rep was, I would love to hear them. I'm really loving the way the author looks at and makes sympathetic all of the different, so many different issues, if you will, that people are having, and normalizes things and helps create sympathetic characters. I absolutely love Cade, and he is very much a boy to me. Like, I've never, even though we know he was assigned female at birth, I've never thought of him as a girl. And it's very interesting because it's made me much more aware of how I look at the trans population. Not that I've been negative about it before, but it's just made me extra aware and extra, proactive. We had a trans patient come in, and they were discussing this patient in the office due to paperwork issues, so very work related. But they kept calling this person a boy because that was what they were assigned at birth. And I kept reminding them, yes, that is what he is assigned at birth, and yes, on our paperwork he is male, but she is a girl, and so you need to refer to her as she until, because that's how she presents. And it was very interesting to get in that advocacy thing. The people I work with are a lot older, and they are still kind of dealing with people who are trans being more open about it and it being a more common thing to see. I don't know if it's easier to transition. I don't know if it's easier to be open and honest. I'm not sure why, but it's definitely changing many things in the face of healthcare. So I definitely, though, was reading this while this was going on, and it definitely made me more interested in advocating, because I've never seen Cade as a girl. And so I knew that this patient who came definitely saw themselves as a girl, even though they were assigned male at birth, and they needed to be called she. And it was really interesting. I'd never had a strong need to advocate that before, and I did now because of Cade. So it's really been nice to understand more about people who are a lot different than me, and especially trans is something I don't fully understand. And I'm working on it. I'm working on really becoming an ally for the trans community, just like I'm trying to really become an ally for other members of the LGBTQIA community. So anyway, I also loved in the first book how we have Nancy, who is asexual, and the representation with her, and then again the representation with Cora and being plus size. So I really love the series and the representation in this series. So anyway, I was closing this up. If you enjoyed, please hit like, please comment about the book below. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe. Also, contact information for me is below in the description box. So feel free to reach out to me off of YouTube. I am an author, so if you like romance and have any interest in reading romance, my books are linked below as well. I have books you can read for free in Kindle. I have books that in Kindle Unlimited if you are a member of the Kindle Unlimited program. I have books on Smashword, Kobo, Amazon, and Overdrive. So if your library subscribes to Overdrive, you might be able to get my books through Overdrive. I also have books on Audible, so if you have Audible credits and or if you are in the romance package, you may be able to read my books for free. So just be aware, there's lots of places to find my books if you enjoy romance. This has been Jane. I'll talk to you next time. Thanks. Bye.